Okay, so we're gonna take one of the cans that we cut up from last week, so you should have 6. We're gonna build the wings first, so try and find one that has not too bad edges to it, so no big gouges in it. So like I've got a gouge in this one here. If that's all you've got to work with, that's okay. We can work around it. We'll just use extra glue. Okay, so I'm just going to peel the tape off because I taped mine to the floor. Hopefully you got yours to flatten out a little bit. Mine didn't flatten out so much, but we'll still be able to work with it. Okay. You're going to take your can and you're going to fold it in half so that it's, I guess you're going folding the top to the bottom, okay? Okay, so folding it in half, top to bottom, just like that. Okay, again, if you guys have questions or if you think you're missing something, just post in the comments. I'll try and catch it. Hopefully mine scrolls for me today. Okay, then we're gonna need some wire. Okay, so hopefully you guys got some mechanics wire or clothes hanger. Okay, so you're gonna cut it so it's just a little bit shorter than the length of the can here, okay? Because we're gonna cut it and we're gonna slide it in this front piece here to give your wing a little bit extra stability, okay? Oh, it's not even a cutter, that's why it's not working. There it is. Okay, if you're using tin snips to cut your can, then the snips will work just fine for that wire. Otherwise, you might need some wire snips. Okay, so we're going to take this piece of wire. We're going to unfold our can a little bit. And we're going to put it right into the front. Okay, and then if you've got glue, we're gonna put glue right in here, and then we're gonna seal it shut. Okay, this is where I said, just as we were waiting for everybody to log in, if you've got a rag, it's gonna be really handy because you don't want to cut yourself on the sharp metal edges. Okay, so I got my glue in there, and then I'm just gonna seal it up. Okay, so now that I got the one wing done, see the wire is going to make it a little bit more pliable too, so you can get it nice and flat. I've got kind of a straggly edge here, so now that it's all folded together, I'm going to trim that off. And then the next step, you can kind of take a little bit of creative liberty depending on the style of airplane that you want to make. As I said before, we are making a biplane, so it's going to have 2 wings, top and bottom. So if you want to have curves to the end of your wings, you can trim them to make them curved or rounded, whatever kind of style that you want your airplane wings to be. I'm just going to leave them flat for now. Okay, so we've got 1 wing done. Now we're going to do the exact same thing all over again. So I take a second can. Once again, we're going to fold it in half, top to bottom. Okay, I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to cut it just shorter than my wings. Okay, open it back up some. Okay, then the wire goes in the wing, right up at the front. Okay, and then we're going to glue inside. Okay, and I'm going to take my rag, seal it up, and then push it together so that it gets nice and flat. Okay, and there's my wing. So once again, I'm going to trim off the kind of ragged edge at the bottom. You want to try and keep them so that they're roughly the same width. So that actually that'll be pretty good if I cut it off right here. And there we go. So now we got our wings. Okay, and then as I was saying before, if you want to round the wingtips or do whatever you like to make it whatever style or aesthetic that you want, I would recommend either cutting one and then laying it on top of the other one and then drawing it as a pattern so then your wings end up the same style. Or you can just leave them flat like this. I kind of like the square style on the biplane. Okay. Ooh. Oh, sorry. Hopefully we're still going. My computer decided to go to sleep. All right. So, okay, now we're going to make the tail. So, it's going to be pretty well the same thing as the wings. But as I said, I was doing a little bit of research on the video that I was using to build this, and most airplanes, the tail isn't as long as the wings, so we don't want it to be the same length as the wings. So what we're going to do is we're still going to fold the can in half. Okay, and before you put the wire in this time, because as I said, typically your tail isn't as long as your wings. If you want it to be awesome, then you just make it like a third wing. If not, you can either use a ruler, or because I didn't tell you to bring a ruler, the template that we emailed out to you, if you printed it regular size so you didn't scale it, this square right here is going to be 2 inches. And actually, so if you cut off the length of that square, then it's going to be right about the length that you want. Okay, so I just made a mark where 2 inches would be. And then just snipped off the end. Okay, so now I have basically the same thing as our wings, but it's shorter. Okay, and we're gonna do the same thing as we did with the wings. Is we're gonna cut a piece of wire that's just shorter than this, slide it in there, and then glue it shut. So I get my wire. Okay, so now I got my tail, and I'm just going to trim off the edge again. There we go. Okay, and if you decided to put a rounded edge on your wings, typically you'd put the same rounded edge on the tail. So I left my wing square, I'm going to leave my tail square. Okay, so now we got 3 pieces of our airplane. Okay, if you shortened up your tail, keep this little scrap of aluminum, because we'll be able to cut it for the wheel in just a minute. Okay, so now we're going to make the vertical stabilizer, the fin. So I'm going to grab another piece of can here. This one we can use kind of like this one got a little bit chewed up, so I'm going to use that because I don't need the whole can just yet. Okay, so what you need to do now is take that template that got emailed out yesterday and cut out your square. If you haven't already, to use it as a ruler, make sure you cut it out now. so there I got my square. So what we're going to do with the square is take our can, okay, flatten it out, trace this square, and then we're going to cut it out. Okay, so find your marker. If you've got nice edges on your can, you can just line up 2 edges. If it's not so nice, then you can move it away from the edge and make sure that you have nice edges. Okay, so there's my square. So now I'm just going to take my scissors, or if you're using snips, you can take your snips and then cut this out. Okay, don't get rid of that because we can still cut more pieces out of that. Okay, so now you should have just one little square like this. If you didn't have time to print out the template just yet, it's a 2-inch square if you have a ruler handy. The other pieces, though, you're probably going to need the template unless you want to hand draw them. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create our fin. So you're going to fold this one corner to the opposite corner. So not that you want to make a rectangle, that you're folding it to a triangle. Okay, so just like that. Okay, just like that. You probably don't need any wire in there because it should sit relatively straight. If it's not cooperating for you, you can definitely put a piece in there, just like the wings. You can just cut it a little bit shorter. Mine's okay, so I'm just going to glue it now. So unfold it a little bit. Put some glue in there. And then seal it shut again. Okay, and then if you use the edge of the can like I did, you might need to trim it just a little bit just to make it all nice. And there we go. So now you should have a triangle that looks like a tail. Okay, next step. If you did trim your horizontal stabilizer, so the bottom of the tail piece, you'll have this square left over, and it should be the perfect size for what we're going to use next. If not, you can use some of what we cut out, or what was left over from cutting out the tail there. Okay, so you are going to grab your template and cut out the circle. Okay, so now we got our circle. Okay, now we get to another design decision for you guys. So the way I have mine folded is it's got the label side out. what you might want to do is flip it so that it's just the shiny side, because this is going to be your tail wheel, okay? So if you're using different colored cans, maybe you just want the shiny metal side for the tail wheel, maybe you want to keep it all the same and have this side out. And if it makes a difference, your front wheels are going to be made at the bottom of the can, so they're going to be like shiny side out. Okay, so like I said, if you have this scrap piece left over from trimming the tail, then this should be about the perfect size. If you don't, then you're gonna have to use the can, and actually this should be all right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna basically make it double so that it's a little more reinforced. So I'm gonna put some glue in here, seal it shut first, and then I'm gonna draw my circle on and cut it out. Okay, then it's already glued together and I don't have to worry about matching up two pieces. If you're using this, then you could probably fold this in on itself, put some glue right there, and then put your circle there. Okay, so I'm using this, so I'm going to glue it shut. Okay, then I'm going to take the circle and put it on my metal, and then I'm going to trace around it. And then I'm going to cut it out. Okay, and there we go. So now I got my circle for my tail wheel. Okay, so I'm going to take that and add it to my pile of parts here. And we'll move on to the next one. Okay. Now we're going to use the prop. This is another one where it kind of depends on what style of plane that you want. I just kind of drew like your normal size standard prop. If you would want it longer, if you want a different style, if you want it to be 4 blades instead of 2, that's totally up to you. As long as you're careful with your cutting, you're going to have a little bit of aluminum left over at the end of the project, so you will be able to give it a little bit of your own kind of flair. If you just want to make the standard one, then we're going to cut out this prop now. So now we have prop shape. We're going to take another can, or actually we can take the one that we were cutting out of already. Even if you cut your tail wheel out of it, you should still have a fair bit of can left here. Okay, what I'm going to do again is just to kind of reinforce it, I'm going to fold my can over so that it's doubled up. And we're going to glue it shut, trace it on, and cut it out just like we did with the tail wheel. And then, of course, you got to make your design decision whether you want it the label side out or the label side in. So I'm going to go with the silver prop, so I'm going to fold the label in. And I'm just folding it enough that my prop design will fit, and then it'll be doubled over, okay? Okay, so basically just like that. So now I'm going to take this, I'm going to glue it shut, and then I'm going to trace the design on. And then we cut it out. Okay. And so now we've got our prop. Okay, and if you are going to make additional props or you want to make a different style, that's great. We're just about done. I think we've just got a couple more steps here, so I would leave that for a little bit, and then you can do that once we finish with the rest of our parts. Okay, now we're gonna make the big main wheels, okay? So we had you save the bottoms from the cans last week when we cut them apart. So for this, you're gonna need 4 of them, and then you're gonna need one other one for the nose, okay? That one we'll probably get to next week because there isn't a whole lot of prep work for that. So you're going to need 2 of these for each wheel. So what you're going to do is you're just going to take your scissors or your snips and trim them up pretty close to the edge of the ring, or like just basically where it turns into the side of the can. You just want to trim that off so that it's flush here. Okay, I'll start trimming one and then I can show you what I mean. Be careful not to cut yourself on the can. Okay, so just like that. So basically I just left that edge there. Okay, that's 2. And 3. And 4. Okay, so now I've got the 4 circles that are going to become my main landing gear here. So, another ledge. Okay, I don't know if it's true of all of your cans, but I've tried this now. This is my second set. I think most of the cans are bubbled towards the inside of the can, right? So it's kind of lumpy on this side. Okay, so the thing is, we have to stick these together, and if they're lumpy like this, you can see that there's a big gap, right? So what you're going to need to do is pick one side of each wheel, get a hammer, and kind of tamp that down a little bit so that they'll sit flush together, okay? So if you're doing this on your kitchen table, you might want to take it somewhere that it's okay and it's not going to make a big mess. I'm just going to hit mute for a second so you don't have to hear me pounding on this thing. Okay. So I just did one to start. So you can see I took my hammer and I just tamped out the lump in the inside. So there's one that isn't, and there's one that is. You can't really see with the light. Okay, just so that when I put them together, they're gonna be like flush. Okay, and then I'm gonna do the same for the other wheel. So now once we've done that, we take our glue. I recommend putting it on the side that still has the lump. And then you're going to put it on here and you're going to put it around the edge so that you can kind of stick them together. If you're using hot glue, careful you don't burn yourself because the heat transfers through the aluminum pretty easily. Okay, and then just try and line them up the best you can. Okay, and now I got one glued together. I'm going to glue the other one together. If it's not sticking that great for you too, you can also put a bead around the edge. Alright, and we got two more pieces, well, two more different parts, which will total 4 pieces left to do. And then we should be finished up pretty close to our hour mark. And then next week we're going to start assembling. Okay, so we've got our wings, we've got our prop, we've got our tail, we've got our wheels. What we need to do is make first the struts for the landing gear. So you're going to take another piece of can. Okay, and then you're going to need the triangle from the template. So we're going to cut out the triangle. Okay, so what I'm going to do is basically the same. Alright, sorry guys, a little bit of technical difficulties. The phone we were using to tape the live webcast last night ran out of memory with about 2 minutes left. So I'm just going to recap the last 2 steps. So we had just cut out our triangle template. So then what you needed to do was take a piece of your can, fold it in half so that it's doubled up. put your template on top of it, trace it with your marker, just to make sure that it's going to fit folded over, because you want to have it doubled up. Take your glue the fold together, and then cut it out. And then you need 2 of those, okay? 2 of those, one for either piece of landing gear. And then the very last step was just to take your can and fold it, I guess would have been the long way, so you're going this way to make your struts. Okay, so I just take my can and I'm just gonna fold it over. There wasn't a template for this because it's kind of your style, whatever you want to do, how thick you want to make it. So that's about how thick I made it. It's probably about 1/2 inch. So see, I just folded it over. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bead of glue in there, fold it back tight, press it with my rag, and then once it's dry, I'm going to snip that off so that I've got just a strut just like that. And then once that I've got the first one done, I'm going to do the same thing. I'll hold it up to my metal to try and get the same width, fold it over, open the fold, fill it with glue, push it tight, and then cut it off, and then I will have 2 struts. Okay, one for either wing. And that was pretty well where we left off. We've got all of our pieces ready to go, and then next Wednesday we will start assembling. So we will see you then.